This is your reality check.
Hi everyone, and welcome to The Reality Check, the weekly Canadian show that explores a wide range of controversies and curiosities using science and critical thinking. This is the show for October 8th, 2019, and I am your host, Darren McKee. With me, as usual, are Adam Gardner.
What's up, cuboids?
Christina Roach.
Hey everyone.
And producer Pat.
Hi, Checkers.
We have a great show for you today. Pat's going to give us another game of Name That.
Awesome.
And then Adam is going to look into active shooter drills. But first, I'm going to explore whether all votes are equal. And by votes, I mean Canadian electoral votes in federal elections.
The ones that matter.
The ones that matter. Canada's election is fast approaching, even faster by the time you hear this, and perhaps past by the time you hear this, because it's on October 21st. So I thought I'd cover a related topic and explore whether votes cast in a Canadian federal election are counted equally. As I mentioned a few episodes ago, when Canadians elect a prime minister, when we go to the voting booth, we don't pick a name from a list of potential prime ministers. We vote for a local member of parliament, and the party with the most members typically forms the government, and they choose a prime minister. If you imagine the U.S. system pretending in some fantastical dreamland that the Electoral College didn't exist, the president would be elected by the popular vote, meaning whoever got the most votes. In this case, each vote would count as much as any other vote. For us Canadians, within a riding, within a certain geographical area, within a certain electoral district, all those things are the same, we elect a local member of parliament. Each vote counts as much as any other in that particular riding. Let me quickly qualify that as each vote counts as much as the other if you're using our first past the post system, meaning whoever has the most votes takes all. There is no proportional representation here. So if there are three candidates, A, B, and C, and A gets 10 votes, B gets 9 votes, and C gets 8 votes, that means A is the winner. The elected member of parliament, or MP, and those other votes, despite being close, are no longer factored in. We don't have to debate that more at this stage, but at least it's consistent in terms of they all count equally under that metric.
Yeah.
So, all votes in Canada are counted equally? Well, not quite. We don't elect our Senate, but our House of Commons is made up of 338 members of Parliament following our last election in 2015. It was made up of 303 members of the previous Parliament, which is an increase of about 35.
Wow.
Why? Well, this relates to my reason for the segment. Our House of Commons was intended to be, and generally is, a representation of the country based on provincial population. Meaning, if you live in a province that has more people, there'll be more members of Parliament that can be elected in that province. Ontario, the most populous province, has the most MPs. Now, what governs the allocation? Well, first, the senatorial clause guarantees that each province will have at least as many members of parliament as senators at the time that they joined Confederation. Confederation is generally when Canada became a country. It's largely in 1867 for the 4 so-called founding provinces, but other provinces joined at different times, largely over the next couple decades, most of them before 1900. Newfoundland was a holdout till 1949.
1949.
I know.
My father was born in the country of Newfoundland.
Same with my father. Oh, Adam, I didn't know we had so much in common. You never know what you learn on TRC. Second, as said in the CBC article, linked in the show notes at trcpodcast.com,
Great website.
the 1985 Representation Act guaranteed each province would never have fewer seats than it had in 1976 or during the 33rd Parliament. So what does that mean? Mainly that Prince Edward Island, our smallest province, with 4 ridings and a population of about 150,000, has a riding population much smaller than the national average and much smaller than the larger provinces. PEI's average population for electoral district is around 36,000. That's basically 150,000 divided by 4. While Ontario and Alberta have an average population per electoral district of 110,000 and 111,000 respectively, which is about 3 times as much. Now, our territories are also really low as they only have 1 member of parliament each, 3 total. Does this mean that someone in PEI has a vote that counts for 3 times as much as someone in Ontario? Not in the sense of a general or popular vote would count. It does indicate that fewer voters get to determine an MP and a member of parliament. And of course, I'm not actually including how many people actually vote. So you could imagine there's actually somewhere else that could take fewer people to elect an MP, but a different place, there's a lower voter turnout, so that it actually doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Now, they do have a greater influence on the Canadian population than another riding. I think that's a defensible statement, that a smaller population per electoral district has a greater influence on the Canadian population because it takes a fewer amount of people or fewer votes to actually create a member of parliament. Mm-hmm. For general bases of comparison, Ontario has about 100 times the population of PEI and about 30 times as many seats, meaning elected members of parliament. Yeah. And this is a little Ontario-centric as a base of comparison because that's where I live. Also, if you take out Quebec, Ontario has as many people as all the remaining provinces and territories put together.
Wow. Let's not take out Quebec, eh?
And of course not. How would Adam get home? Just to give you a sense of the scale and the size. Yep. So within a riding, also known as electoral district, yes, all votes are equal. But we do have provincial imbalances due to rules and agreements made long ago.
That's interesting because I guess because of that rule that you can't have less seats than a confederation, the easier solution would to just say, okay, well, PEI now has 2 ridings and you just kind of reshape them. And then we maybe keep a somewhat similar number. Because, I was a little surprised when you said that number because I think when I was in school, it was like 239 or something. Like it was much lower. But if you can't go lower than that certain amount, then there's only so much you can do by moving things around.
Adam was saying the total number of possible MPs in our country as 239, and now it's 338, and it'll go up again because they're trying to balance things out. There's 2 problems here. One is that you think like, okay, if we can't lower it, we'll just raise everyone else, and then eventually it'll work out. But some of these smaller places are actually losing population.
Yeah.
So it's a competition that you're like, well, okay, now one place is increasing the country, another one's decreasing, so it's a double whammy.
Yeah. So if the population of PEI decreased significantly, then you would still have 4 ridings there, and there's nothing you can do about it.
And now we turn to Pat for another game of Name That.
All right, here we go with everyone's favorite mostly guessing game, Name That. Today we play another edition of the pain in the butt to research, but always fun to play, Spot the Fake.
Oh, yes.
All right.
We have 5 questions, no tiebreaker today. If we're tied after 5 questions, we'll end that way. For each question, I'll give you 4 so-called facts. 3 are absolutely true, and 1 is not. And I'll ask you to spot the fake fact. Oof. I've randomly determined our starting order, and we'll rotate. And Adam, you're up first.
All right.
Spot the fake. Is it A, by weight, bay leaves contain more caffeine than coffee beans? They commonly are used to make a stimulating tea in Morocco. Or B, the longest advertisement to ever air on television was 14 hours long. Or C, duffel bags are named after the town of Duffel, Belgium. Or D, when Gustave Eiffel designed the Eiffel Tower, he added a hidden apartment on the 3rd level.
In the past week, I've watched 2 movies in which scenes take place in the Eiffel Tower. And it seems like whenever I see a movie in a place like that, there's just like rooms that somehow tourists never go in where people hang out. I don't know if that really makes sense. So I'm going to say, no, I guess I would say that one's real. So that
say you're spotting the fake, not giving us
Doesn't help me. Bay leaves, I believe, are the thing you put in spaghetti sauce, and that when you eat them, they taste kind of weird. It seems like that one is probably fake. A.
All right, Adam says A, bay leaves. Next is Christina.
I've never heard that before, but that doesn't mean anything about the bay leaves, even though I use it in cooking certain things. The duffel one seems just, I don't know, just seems so simple and that it's so plausible that it's probably the fake. So based on that logic, I will go with C.
All right, Christina goes with the duffel bags. And lastly, Darren.
Again, good choices, Pat. Is it just a room or is it an apartment? And the one, is a telethon count as 14 hours as an ad? Does it not? Is it the weight of the beans versus the leaves? Is it Duffel, Germany or something? I'll pick the duffel also.
All right, Darren agrees with Christina on duffel bags. Eiffel used the special space to entertain distinguished guests such as Thomas Edison. It isn't a big room, but the apartment was decorated with wallpaper, furnished with wooden cabinets, and even featured a grand piano.
I know that one. I love Paris so much.
A 14-hour ad for an Old Spice product that supposedly lasted forever was aired in São Paulo, Brazil on December 8th, 2018, earning the Guinness World Record for the longest TV ad ever.
Wow.
The duffel bag does get its name from the town of Duffel, Belgium, where the cloth used for the bags was originally sold.
Boo.
Bay leaves containing more caffeine than coffee beans is made up. Question number 2. Christina, spot the fake. Is it A, Mattel's iconic Barbie doll has a full name? It's Barbara Millicent Roberts. Or B, Bangladesh has 6 official seasons. Or C, originally the Fonz was going to wear a leather vest, but the popularity of the village people made them switch it to a jacket.
Oh, no.
Or D, baseball umpires used to call games sitting in rocking chairs.
Man, it's just so fascinating that 3 of these are true.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go with, I feel like Barbie does have a full name, but I don't think it's Barbara Millicent, whatever you said.
Okay.
I'm going to go with A.
All right, Christina goes with Barbie. Next is Darren.
I hate to keep siding with Christina, but I'll pick A.
Darren also goes with Barbie. And lastly, Adam.
I thought her name was Barbie Doll, but
I know.
I'm wrong on that one. I believe the baseball umpires sitting in rocking chairs is the fake.
All right. When Barbie was introduced back in March 1959, she was given the full name of Barbara Millicent Roberts.
Oh, man.
Bangladesh has 6 seasons: summer, monsoon, autumn, late autumn, winter, and spring. Prior to 1859, the pros responsible for handing out strikes and balls sat in rocking chairs 20 feet behind the batter. The Fonz leather vest story is made up. All right, question number 3. Darren, spot the fake. Is it A, Lego has an underground vault with reportedly every Lego set ever made? Or B, police are called cops or coppers because their badges used to be made out of copper? Or C, research indicates that as in HUH question mark, is the closest thing humans have to a universal word, understood in almost every language? Or D, platypuses don't have stomachs?
Platypuses have stomachs. So I guess that's the fake, even though I was going to pick one of the other ones before.
All right, Darren says platypuses have stomachs. Next is Adam.
Sorry, can we go through them?
Yep. Lego underground vault, every set ever made. Police are called cops or coppers because their badges used to be made out of copper. Research indicates that the is the closest thing to a universal word, or platypuses don't have stomachs.
I think C, being a universal expression, is the fake.
All right, Adam says C. And lastly, Christina.
I feel like platypus is a trick question. B sounds... I'm going to go with B. What the hell?
All right, Christina says B, the police, and copper. In 2008, Gizmodo got a peek at Lego's underground memory lane vault, which contains over 4,700 Lego sets, some dating back to the 50s. Research suggests that is the closest thing humans have to a universal word. The questioning expression is understood in almost every language. On top of having a bird-like bill and webbed feet, the platypus doesn't have a stomach.
Yes.
The word copper was originally used in Britain to mean someone who captures. The copper badge is made up.
Oh, so then Constable on Patrol is also made up?
It is also made up, yes. I did actually see that in my research. Question number 4. Adam, spot the fake. Is it A, the shortest commercial flight in the world takes 57 seconds?
Sure, why not?
B, the phrase, if pain persists, see your doctor, is trademarked by Bayer. C, Frederick Bauer, the man responsible for creating the iconic Pringles can, was buried in a Pringles can.
Oh, wow. To seal in the freshness?
Right. Or D, before she became a member of the Black Eyed Peas, Fergie provided the voice for Sally in Peanuts cartoons.
Oh, Fergie is way too young for that. There may have been different eras of Peanuts cartoons. There may be a trick there. But I'm going to go with D being the fake.
All right, Adam goes with Fergie. Next is Christina.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the first couple?
Shortest commercial flight, 57 seconds. Pain persists, see your doctor, trademarked by Bayer. Guy buried in a Pringles can. Fergie doing a voice for the Peanuts.
I can believe the bear thing and the first one. The Fergie thing seems same reason Adam said, because of when Peanuts first came out. But once again, I'm going to go just like my instinct with the copper one. I'm thinking the Pringles can, although I seem to remember something. Anyway, I'm going to go with C, Pringles. He did not get buried in a Pringles can.
All right, Christina goes with the Pringles can, and lastly, Darren.
I agree with my co-host, but I'll pick A.
Stacey Ann Ferguson, better known as Fergie, provided the voice for Sally, Charlie Brown's younger sister, for 2 TV movies and several episodes of the Peanuts animated series.
Wow.
The flight between 2 Scottish islands of Westray and Papa Westray lasts just 57 seconds.
Wow.
At Bauer's request, his children bought a can of original flavor Pringles en route to his funeral, and he was buried in the empty can.
Damn.
The phrase, "if pain persists, see your doctor," is not trademarked by Baer.
You're sneaky.
To be fair, I wasn't picturing that he was cremated.
Well, how else would you get it in the Pringles
How big is the can?
can?
Well,
Goofy?
you could have it specially made if you're the Pringles guy.
All right, going into the last question, I have Adam with 1 and Christina with 1. Question number 5. Christina, spot the fake. Is it A, the NFL and FIFA have been in a court battle for decades over the legal right to call their sport football? Or B, auction houses Christie's and Sotheby's once played rock, paper, scissors to decide who would auction a $20 million art collection? Or C, NASA was sued by 3 men for trespassing on Mars? Or D, Niels Bohr was given a house with unlimited beer on tap after he won the Nobel Prize?
Who's going to charge you with trespassing on Mars? That's ridiculous. So that's got to be true.
Well, to say, the United States is a litigious country.
So I'm thinking, maybe I'll go with A. I don't believe that to be true, although people are always arguing about it, soccer fans and football fans. But
All right, Christina goes with the NFL and FIFA. Next is Darren.
Did such a great job with this. They all seem so plausible.
it's true.
The Christie's thing, the football thing, Niels Bohr thing. I guess, I could see Niels Bohr getting that, but he wouldn't want to drink that much beer anyway. We'll go with Sotheby's. That one, B. B, Pat.
All right, Darren goes with B. And lastly, Adam.
I think it's A, because although for sure a lot of people argue about whether football means, hitting with the foot or something that doesn't have anything to do with the foot, the acronyms aren't the same. So even if they were both acronyms for the same sport, there's no legal contention there. So I don't really see it. So I think that's the fake.
So you've decided that you're going to end in a tie no matter what happens here.
Sorry if I don't make it more interesting.
That's all right. After he won the Nobel Prize in 1922, Carlsberg gave Bohr a house located next to the brewery. It had a direct pipeline to the brewery with unlimited free beer on tap.
Wow.
That's incredible.
In 2005, both Sotheby's and Christie's were eager to sell Takashi Hashimeya's $20 million art collection, but when Hashimeya couldn't choose between the auction houses, he let a game of rock, paper, scissors between the auction houses make the decision for him.
That's amazing.
Now, Japanese call it Junkin Pao. It's a little bit exactly the same thing, but they have different.
Christie's was the winner, by the way. Scissors beat paper. In 1997, NASA was sued by 3 men from Yemen for trespassing on Mars. The men claimed that they had inherited the planet from their ancestors 3,000 years ago. The NFL and FIFA court case is made up.
Yes.
So we end in a tie. Congratulations, Adam and Christina.
Well, what I'm hearing is that there's no winner here today.
Actually, what I'm hearing, there's 2 winners and 1 loser. That's
what I hear is that no one came in first and there's a strong second.
We could break this tie with a game of rock, paper, scissors.
Oh, boy.
Oh, yeah?
Is this between all of us or just the
No,
two?
just
just
the
me
two of
and
them to
Adam.
break the tie.
Oh, that's
So
fine.
you're like a judge. So we do 1, 2, 3, boom.
Okay.
Okay?
1, 2, 3, go.
Rock.
Scissors.
Worked for Sotheby's.
That's great, Pat. Another great game. We learned 20 things and probably retained none of them, but we can listen to it later. That's the beauty of this show.
You know, it's interesting when we played that game. I had this discussion with Stuart Robbins when he was here staying with us. I said, I worry about that game because I worry that the fake facts are going to stick in people's heads as true.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And now we turn to Adam for exploration of active shooter drills.
That's right, Darren. Active shooter drills are fairly common in the US, a country in which it seems like the risk of being the target of a mass shooting is excessively common. What are these about? Are they useful? And do they do any harm? Now, I read about an article about this earlier this year, but I was reminded of the topic this week when I heard about schools having blanks shot in the hallways during active shooter drills, which to me seemed like a very terrible thing to do.
That is horrific.
Yeah. Now, I've never experienced an active shooter drill in my own life, and neither have my children. Let me start with a little side story. About 6 months ago, my 2-year-old daughter started doing two things. She started pointing out fire trucks, and at the same time would get very frightened by any sort of beeping sound. As recently as this week, she got quite frightened when our fire alarm went off, but also when the fire alarm went off in a TV show I was watching. This also extended to almost any beeping, including a phone notification for a text message or email. The furnace turning on, squeaking of taps became a big problem. So I did a bit of asking at daycare, and I learned that they did a fairly harmless fire drill, which triggered this whole thing. I don't fault them for it, but, this makes me wonder, this is just a run-of-the-mill fire drill that really, 6 months later, she still got problems for it. And in the US, many children as young as preschool aged are going through active shooter drills. So that's something. So before I get into too much of the specifics, I just want to stress one important point, which you might not appreciate if you listen to the news a lot, and that is that it is extremely unlikely, even if you live in the United States of America, that you will be killed in a mass shooting. I've seen different numbers and different analysis, but one number I saw from the National Safety Council, National Center for Health Statistics, gave the lifetime odds of dying from a mass shooting to be around 1 in 11,125. Now, this is less likely than dying by accidental gunshot, by riding a bicycle, or choking on food. Dying from assault by a gun in general was only 1 in 315, significantly more likely. So gun violence is an issue. Mass shootings, much less of an issue. School shootings in particular are even more rare. From another source I saw, the chances of being killed by a gun in a school in 1999 were 1 in 614 million, and school shootings have become less common since then. Now, this is not quite the lifetime odds, just odds for a year, so we can't compare them exactly, but 1 in 614 million is an excessively small number. Kids are much more likely to be shot outside of a school, with some 7,100 children being shot each year, and there's about 60 school shootings taking place in a year. Now, since 1999, there have been 150 people, that are adults and children, shot and killed in schools. Though this isn't every year, this is a total. 150 people since 1999. So when you look at the population of the US, this is actually a fairly small number. And we can say any number is too much, but it is very small. Now, like terrorism and white nationalism, the news will convince you that these are massive problems, but the news reports on sensational things, not mundane things, so it does not present us with a realistic view of risk, and it's not meant to. This is just how the news works. Now, I'm not saying it's not bad. I'm not saying it's not a problem. I'm just trying to give some context to those who have a crippling fear of going to school, going out in public, or are convinced that the U.S. is in a state of unprecedented crisis due to school shootings. This isn't a segment on gun control. I think common sense gun control would probably mitigate the rare issues of mass shootings, but there's something very unique going on in the United States relating to gun violence that's above and beyond other countries that have similar numbers of guns. And I've never been able to quite determine what that is, and a lot of people have thought about it, and I don't think anyone's really presented a great idea for what that is. So much to say, it doesn't need to be one or the other. So this is what a lot of people become defensive about. Why are we doing after shooter drills? Just get rid of all the guns. Well, if something is likely to help a situation, it can be done. But we can look at active shooter drills, how effective they are for their own sake. So what is going on with these active shooter drills, and how common are they? In 2015-2016, in the US, some 95% of schools ran some kind of lockdown drill. About 2/3 had active shooter drills. So this is a drill that specifically focuses on someone with a gun in the school. Beyond drills, there are actual lockdowns, which can occur when there is a perceived threat. For example, if they think there's gunshots heard outside the school, they can put the school in lockdown. In 2017-2018, 4.1 million students in the U.S. experienced at least one lockdown or lockdown drill, 220,000 of which were kindergarten or preschool-aged children.
Man.
Wow.
Yeah. So my daughter climbs over the table to get into my arms because of a fire drill that happened 6 months ago. I can't imagine how she would react if she'd had an active shooter drill at daycare. Now, active shooter drills themselves can vary quite a bit in how they're applied. In some cases, such as at Lake Brantley High School in Florida, students were not even told it's a drill, but explicitly told that it was not a drill, and they wanted to simulate a real situation to make the kids think it was real. So, students in such cases called their parents, who flooded 911 with calls.
Whose bright idea
Traumatized
was
children.
this? That's terrible.
That is, yes, it is terrible. Now, young children can be included, like 5 and 6-year-olds who are taught to stack chairs and desks like a fort to keep gunmen away. A school in Massachusetts had a song to the tune of Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, which happens to be the alphabet and blah, blah, black sheep, which went, lockdown, lockdown, lock the door, shut the lights, say no more.
Oh, it seems sad and cruel almost.
Very. So a lot of people say, is this where we're at in a country that we have to do this? But the response to that is, no, maybe you don't have to do this, right? So do they work? Now, this is a very difficult question. It's very difficult to measure harm reduction, partially because of the frequency. It'd be hard to do controls and things like that. There certainly has not been any evidence to show definitively that they do work, but likewise, there isn't strong evidence to show that they don't do anything. Now, in Parkland, where there was a shooting last February, there had been an active shooter drill a month prior. The suspect participated in these drills and may have used that information to his advantage.
That's the problem.
So, what are you getting here if you're doing that? And the other kind of idea is that doing these drills kind of just creates that idea in the minds of the children. I'm not going to say that some of these shootings happened because of a drill, but there is plausibility to that idea. Now, if we don't really know how effective they are, but there's even a small chance that they might help, this might seem like a good idea if there were no downside, but they aren't without harm. One of the things these drills can do is create stress and anxiety amongst students. As people are more prepared for something, they also feel more at risk. So these shooter drills make the relatively rare occurrence of school shootings seem that much more likely. This causes stress. This causes anxiety in children. This is something we saw back in the 50s when they would do duck and cover drills for nuclear bombs. Children were having nightmares. Children were drawing mushroom clouds and things like this because it was something that they were sort of taught about being expected. So it became normal in their minds. Some 57% of American teenagers worry about a shooting at their school. 32% of 13 to 18-year-olds have anxiety disorders. I'm not suggesting that this is solely to blame, but kids are anxious, teenagers are anxious, and they are going through these drills. It could be a factor. Now, in general, it seems like there are ways to make lockdown drills somewhat generic, not focus on the shooter angle, which could remove a lot of the frightening aspects of it. If drills need to happen, there may be better ways to do it. There's maybe a question to ask whether those drills even need to happen at all. Are active shooter drills good or bad? Well, they seem pretty horrible to me, but I don't think there's an objectively correct answer to whether or not they reduce harm in the sense of saving lives. We can't say there's no harm done, however, as there are negative effects in doing them. These should attempt to be minimized if some sort of lockdown drill is done. Ultimately, school shootings are excessively rare, so the possible effectiveness of these drills needs to be considered in that context. Causing stress and anxiety to young students seems like a very avoidable problem in this case.
It seems like one of these things that is entirely predictable.
Yeah.
Because people feel powerless, so they want something to be done. So then you get this, which is not necessarily anything useful, as you said. People who are involved in it may use the information against it. There are people who shoot up a school or something else that have nothing to do with the school, but often they're the students in the school. Mm-hmm. I'm also not sure why it's like active shooter versus like a passive shooter. What would that mean? But anyway, okay, they're active shooter drills. And as you said, there's a lot of people being traumatized, and it's not clear they're actually going to do anything.
Yeah.
Thanks, Adam. And thanks for joining us once again. I explored whether votes in Canada are counted equally, and within a certain domain they are, in another way, not quite. Pat gave us another great game of Name That, Spot the Fake, which Adam and Christina lucked out into winning. And then finally, Adam looked at active shooter drills, which may or may not be helpful or data to follow. Until next time, think better to act better.
Peace out, cuboids.
I am the champion. Stay classy, not smart-assy.
We'll talk to you next week, everyone.
For show notes or to discuss this episode, visit our Facebook page and website at trcpodcast.com. For general inquiries or to send a topic or parody suggestion, email info@trcpodcast.com. Help support the show by leaving a review on iTunes and liking us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at @TRC_podcast.